In 1953, Patrick Fitzgerald inherited his childhood home from his mother and renamed it the Eternal Sunshine Manor. Son of wealthy industrialist Ethan Fitzgerald and socialite Alice Croftwell, Patrick was Columbia, Michigan's most prominent citizen and her least regarded. It was generally agreed he had inherited the brilliance but also the instability common among the Croftwells. At age 14, following his best friend Amanda Russell's failure to ask him to the 1935 Columbia Junior High Sadie Hawkins dance, he agreed to marry his recently divorced 40-year-old third cousin, Lucretia Croftwell. The marriage was annulled, and afterwards, Patrick was sent to Eloise Psychiatric Hospital for observation. A month later, his father Ethan agreed to his release when he became the youngest person ever accepted to Oxford University. In 1938, he graduated with degrees in mathematics, physics, and 17th century Florentine puppetry. That same year, he mysteriously returned to Columbia for a single day before departing for New York City, where he had accepted a teaching position at Cornell University. 2 years later, he was once again hospitalized after parachuting from the Chrysler Building in a Superman costume. In 1942, at the request of Dr. Robert Oppenheimer, he was released to work on the Manhattan Project, which produced the world's first atomic bomb. After the war, he was accepted as a fellow at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. For the next 7 years, he joined Einstein in attempting to construct a grand unification theory, reconciling quantum physics with general relativity. During this period, he was also briefly hospitalized, twice. On the first occasion, in 1947, he drove his brand new Cisitalia 202 SMM Nuvolari Spider into New York Harbor. On the second occasion, in 1950, he interrupted a live radio broadcast of NBC's The Bob Hope Show to sing Cole Porter's Anything Goes. Columbia Records subsequently offered him a recording contract, which he declined. His return to Columbia in 1953 as a bachelor with 2 infants created a scandal. Any doubts as to their paternity were dismissed when they began to demonstrate the characteristic genius of the Croftwells. The town of Columbia stood by anxiously to see if they would also inherit the Croftwells' unique peculiarities. In kindergarten, Hannah Fitzgerald drew a perfect copy of The Last Supper in colored chalk on her teacher's blackboard in the 15 minutes the rest of the class was enjoying recess. A test administered a week later revealed her to have an IQ of 202, putting her in the top 1/10,000th of 1% of Americans. Her twin brother Sean, who tested at an IQ of 188, ascribed the 14-point discrepancy in their scores to an undigested piece of spam that affected his concentration. Periodically, Patrick invited others to live with them. For the next 8 years, he read, took walks, and wrote books. Life at the Eternal Sunshine Manor was uneventful until May 12th, 1964.
I can't help you, Bert.
You can, but you won't.
All right, I won't. I don't see how you can do this to Patrick. The two of you are supposed to be friends.
Please, the two of you are friends. Me, he barely tolerates. It's been that way since we were kids. Besides, after everything you've told me, you can't possibly think he's fit to raise those children.
I never should have shared any of that. But don't you dare use that against him now.
It's not a matter of public record anyway. Sure, Patrick's a genius, but he's also a nut. And those people he has living with him, they're worse than he is. How can you think it's safe to live in the same house with those 2 innocent little children?
Patrick is doing okay right now. They're all doing okay. Hannah and Sean are perfectly safe.
He's always been a soft touch. I think every weirdo is merely misunderstood. You know that after law school, when I came back to care for my mother, I had calls from firms in New York and Boston. Now here I am, 15 years later, stuck in the same 2-bit hick town I wanted to escape my entire life. Now I'm drowning here, can't you see it? I'm drowning in Rotary meetings and church socials and Friday night football games. If I can handle this right and impress Ethan Fitzgerald, we can escape this dead-end town.
Bert, we've talked about this. I like Columbia. I like my job. I like helping people here.
There are people to help in New York and Boston, too.
Okay, enough. I'm going to see Patrick tomorrow. You can go with me then. I just don't want some strangers serving Patrick some papers. But don't expect any support from me.
And all I'm asking that you don't work against me is for the best, you'll see.
800 miles away at Martha's Vineyard, Ethan Fitzgerald's fiancée, Poppy Barrington, and his personal assistant, Aldrich Calloway, were also discussing the imminent custody battle.
I still don't understand why I had to convince Ethan to take those children away from their father. Who wants them around anyway?
Darling, Poopsie Bear, Snuggle Muffin, my little snickety boom boom. You don't have to worry your pretty little head about that. They won't be around for long. I've already enrolled the boy at Exeter and the girl at the Phillips Academy.
Oh, Aldi, you know I love children. It's just their creepy little fingers and their fat little faces and the way they suck the joy and life out of everything around them I can't stand.
Don't worry, honey sugar booger. Once Ethan's gone, you'll never have to see them.
But why do I have to see them at all?
My little pork chop. Once he adopts them, he's going to leave them everything. Those two brats are going to inherit $1 billion. Once he marries you, you'll adopt them as well. That will leave you in control of the Fitzgerald fortune after Ethan has his unfortunate accident. That'll give us years to siphon off money from the estate. When we're through, they won't have enough left to buy a hot dog in the park.
Oh, Aldi, I love it when your nose flares when you're being devious. But what if we get caught?
Remember, Sugar Lips, he's an old man. No one will question a heart attack after he makes love to his beautiful young bride.
Oh, I wish Ethan were already dead. You don't know how horrible it is to make love with someone who isn't beautiful. After all, you get to make love to me.
Just a little bit longer, Bubbles. In 6 months, we'll be in Rio de Janeiro. Rio, lovely Rio, in the beach-o, with the pretty girls in... Hey, I'm sorry, darling. I just got carried away. I meant lovely Poppy in Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, Aldi, you're giving me butterflies.
You were stopping by today?
Hello, Hannah. Bert and I are here to speak with your father.
Well, Papa's taking Lady for a walk right now. He'll be back in a little while. Did you see Sean outside?
No.
He is avoiding me. We're having an argument on the nature of reality. He and I both agree that matter and energy display characteristics of both waves and particles, depending on whether they are being observed, and that consciousness collapses the wave function into actual particles that exist throughout space and time. Therefore, I asserted that reality itself depends upon the observer, while Sean says reality itself ceases to exist without one. He called me pedantic, and then I said he was absolutely abstruse.
You two shouldn't argue. Especially when no one can tell what you're arguing about.
Well, do you want my and Papa's study?
Sure.
Hello, Dr. Russell.
Hello, Sean.
Lord, what's that get-up you're wearing?
The clothing that I choose is not some silly ruse, meant to amuse or confuse, but helps me pay my dues while inspiring my muse, and sends to you the cue, I've got the beatnik blues. Good to see you, Dr. Russell. I've got some new spores, molds, and fungus I want to show you.
That would be lovely, Sean.
That's all, folks!
Every day from noon to 1, the residents of Eternal Sunshine Manor played Scrabble. Whenever they ran out of words, they simply added letters from a new game.
Oh, Amanda, I didn't realize any of us had an appointment today.
No one does. This is my fiance, Bert Walker. We're waiting for Patrick. I'm sure he'll be along any moment.
Unlikely. Lady has escaped from Mr. Fitzgerald again.
And you are?
I am Squadron Commander Captain Manfred Albrecht Freiherr von Richthofen.
That's the Red Baron to you and me.
Hello, I am Cletus King. This gorgeous vision here is Beulah Baker. The young lass practicing her cockney is Molly Maguire. This is Jean Stillman, and the silent young thing over there is Opal Perry. Time to get comfortable.
Good God, man, put your clothes on.
Really, Cletus, I expected better of you. As a member of the clergy and a man of advanced years, you should be setting an example for these young people. Do you remember what happened last week? When you opened the door on the Ladies' Baptist Auxiliary? The screams could have woken the dead.
For you, my dear, I'll continue wearing this disgusting, repellent, soul-crushing, un-American garment.
Reverend King is a confirmed nudist.
I'm 61 and do not look a day over 60. That's because I allow the toxins to escape my body. Now come, everyone, time's a-wasting.
I believe when we left off yesterday, it was your turn, Captain von Richthofen.
Ha ha! Here it is. Donnerdampf Schiffers Gesellschafts Kapitän. That's 242 points.
We've talked about this again and again. No German words allowed. You're supposed to be learning English. Besides, I think you make them up.
I am a German officer. I would never act dishonorably. Donnerdampf Schiffers Gesellschafts Kapitän is a Donnaby Steamship Company captain.
I'm sure you're telling the truth, but you did agree to use English words, Captain von Richthofen.
Very well. My word is ass. 3 points.
His real name is Max Weber. He's Pennsylvania Dutch. He headed up the team in North American Aviation that developed the F-100 Super Sabre, the Air Force's first supersonic jet fighter. He was also the largest private owner of objects that previously belonged to Captain von Richthofen, the Red Baron. He suffered a very serious head injury after being in an automobile accident that killed his wife and children, and then afterwards he adopted the Red Baron persona.
Oh, it's my turn. My word is Broadway. I do hope someday to return to Broadway. 101 pounds of fun. That's my little honey bun. Get a lot of honey bun tonight.
That's It's lovely, dear. But singing is this afternoon. We're playing Scrabble now.
I hate Scrabble time. I never win.
Opal says you never win because you never pay attention.
You're just jealous because you can't sing as beautifully as I do.
I'm sorry, Molly. Opal is a bit shy. She has standard phrases and responses recorded on her reel-to-reel.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So sorry.
Ah! I cannot handle this lack of discipline!
See what you've all done? You've embarrassed us in front of Mr. Walker. Please excuse us. Why don't we all go out to the greenhouse and help Opal plant her new roses?
That would be wonderful.
They're so much worse than you've led me to believe. What a bunch of loonies. No wonder those kids act so weird.
Sometimes, Bert, you can be a real jerk.
Now see here.
That'll be Patrick and Lady. You may as well get this over with.
Amanda, what a pleasant surprise. We weren't expecting to see you until Thursday. Hello, Bert.
Patrick, Bert needs to talk to you.
There's no easy way for me to say this, so I'll just say it. I've been hired by your father to contest your custody of Hannah and Sean.
He's never been the least bit interested in them. They've never even spoken to him.
Well, he's interested now. You'll receive a notice from the court in a couple days, then we'll begin depositions.
I think this is a terrible mistake. But of course you have my full support.
You've passed your message along, Bert. You know the way out. He's always been such an obnoxious jerk. How can you consider marrying him?
Bert's not that bad. Not really. Not when you get to know him. I mean, we've known each other since the first grade, and our families have always been close friends. But most men in Columbia don't want to date an old spinster like me who makes more money than them. Also, no one else has asked me.
Now there's a rousing endorsement for getting married.
Don't tease. But don't underestimate Bert. He really is a very good lawyer. He's desperately trying to impress your father. Promise me, please, that you'll get an attorney as quickly as you can.
Ethan Fitzgerald, more comfortable in the boardroom than the family room, had always been a distant presence in his son's life. Furthermore, he had never conquered his early conviction that Patrick's mental illness was the result of a defect in his character.
Poppy convinced me to sue for custody after she learned about Hannah and Sean. She loves kids. But still, I'm not entirely convinced I'm doing the right thing. I understand Patrick's had no incidents since before the twins were born.
Sir, let me put any doubts you have to rest. As you instructed, I've spoken with Sean and Hannah's teachers, as well as many members of the local community. Let me just say, your grandchildren's behavior is, well, very unusual. If you could get them out of their father's custody now, they might turn out fine. If not, well, the odds are against them.
I'm sorry to say that I have to concur with Mr. Calloway. Your son is not a well man, and the people he has living with their grandson and granddaughter are dangerously deranged.
Still, it seems precipitous to sue for custody without investigating myself.
Mr. Fitzgerald, you are a man whose good-hearted nature knows no bounds. Of course you don't want to hurt your son, but you'll actually be helping him by getting custody of your grandchildren. Clearly the strain of responsibility is too much for Patrick to handle. Why, if you take away the need for him to care for Sean and Hannah, you'll actually be making it easier for him to get better.
Still, Wish there was another way. We've never been close, Patrick and I, even before his problem. Suppose it doesn't help that there's not an ounce of Fitzgerald in him. He's a Croftwell through and through. And Alice and I, we rarely saw eye to eye on how to raise him. When his peculiarities emerged, she indulged him, instead of allowing me to put him in an institution where he'd get the help he needs.
He and Amanda should be here any minute. In fact, I think I hear them now.
Now remember, no matter what happens, stay calm. Don't let your temper get away from you.
I'll be the soul of tranquility. Ed?
Patrick?
Let the record show that this meeting is taking place on May 12th, 1961 at the offices of Walker and Jones, attorneys at law. Bert Walker representing plaintiff Ethan Fitzgerald. Accompanying him is his fiancée, Mrs. Poppy Barrington, and his personal assistant, Mr. Aldrich Calloway. Representing the defense will be Mr. Patrick Fitzgerald. Accompanying him is Dr. Amanda Russell, a private licensed physician. Mr. Fitzgerald has chosen to attend this meeting without counsel. For the record, would you please state your name?
Patrick Fitzgerald.
And you live at 3033 Poplar Lane at the Croftwell Mansion.
I live at 3033 Poplar Lane, at the Eternal Sunshine Manor, yes.
With whom do you live?
With my children, Hannah and Sean. I also have 6 boarders. Beulah Baker, Cletus King, Max Weber, Gene Stillman, Molly McGuire, and Opal Perry.
How long have they lived with you?
It varies. Beulah was the first to arrive in 1954. Cletus came a year later. Max and Gene in 57, Molly in 58, and Opal came to live with us just last year.
What were the circumstances of their coming to live with you?
In order to facilitate their release from psychiatric hospitals, I provided them with a place to live while they continued to receive treatment.
And for what reasons were they hospitalized?
Cletus is in the early stages of dementia. Molly and Beulah are dealing with clinical depression. Max has delusions. Gene has dissociative identity disorder. And Opal suffers from a variety of social disorders.
Are any of them receiving treatment?
I can answer that. I consult with Mr. Fitzgerald to provide them treatment. They are my patients.
I really need Patrick to answer these questions. I'll depose you at another time.
What she said.
Very well. Do you feel it safe and appropriate to expose your children to people like this?
I want Hannah and Sean to grow up around kind, decent, caring people, and they are.
That's yet to be determined. Now, I'd like to turn to your own history of hospitalization. You've been hospitalized 4 times, in 1935, in 1940, in 1948, and 1950. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why were you hospitalized?
Because I either did cartwheels down the middle of town, or I couldn't get out of bed in the morning.
Excuse me?
Manic depression.
Could you give us a brief description of this condition?
It means at times I get depressed, and at other times I suffer from a kind of mania. When that happens, I have trouble sleeping, and I have an overabundance of energy that I have trouble controlling. I may have hallucinations, but since 1952 I've been taking lithium, which helps me control my highs and lows.
Sorry. Ethan, are we almost done here? I couldn't find a hairdresser in this grubby town, and Aldrich has to drive me all the way to Detroit. And it's going to take us forever to get there.
Now I'm sure no one will miss you if you leave now.
I don't see the point in all this talk. We know everything we need to know about Patrick and those 6 freaks he lives
Now
with.
see here, you bottle blonde. Moo.
Amanda, not now. Miss Barrington, please refrain from comments.
You can leave if you want to, but I thought you'd want to be involved.
Well, of course I'll stay. You know I would love to have Hannah and Sean live with us. We'll have to get them out of that house soon, because you know if we don't, they'll get infected.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why on earth would you...
Amanda, not now. Miss Barrington, please do not comment during these proceedings.
I'm just trying to help. I've read the reports, and if we don't get those children out of there and soon, they're going to end up as loony as their dad and those weirdos.
And my little dog, too. Patrick, I think it's time to leave.
Dad, do you ever wonder why I renamed the mansion the Eternal Sunshine Manor? That's from Mom's favorite poem, From Abeliza to Abelard. It talks about the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. That refers to comfort that people feel from not getting stuck in the past. That's what the manor is for my tenants and I. It's a place where people are no longer judged for their past, and the future is open and bright. For Mom's sake, I'm inviting you to come and visit us this afternoon. You can talk to Hannah and Sean, and my friends as well. What do you say?
I advise against any off-the-record meetings.
Bring the rest of them with you. It might do them some good as well.
I want to see my grandchildren. We'll be there in a couple hours. Other than the sign, it hasn't changed a bit.
I redid a few of the rooms inside, but I didn't want to change the exterior.
Your mother would have appreciated that.
Hannah, Sean, this is my father, Ethan.
Informed their paternal grandfather would be visiting, Hannah and Sean momentarily considered methods of alienating the old man, including wearing Communist Party badges while reciting portions of Das Kapital, performing the entire second act of Macbeth in Swahili, and performing an interpretive dance based on the mating habits of banana slugs. In the end, they decided simply being themselves would be sufficient to end his interest in adopting them.
Oh, I've waited so long to meet the two of you. We are gonna become the best of friends. And maybe someday you'll let me become your new mommy.
Maybe someday horses will fart rainbows.
Maybe someday bears will crack gold nuggets.
Maybe someday a zebra will drive a sports car out of your sphincter.
Maybe someday your backside will smell like fresh donuts.
But we doubt it.
Well, I can't believe, is this the way you've been taught to speak to adults? Well, I never, you rotten little... Ethan, what are you gonna do about them?
Kids, apologize.
We're sorry.
Why don't you take your grandfather to the living room? You can get to know each other with some privacy.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. Come along, children.
I'm sorry, just you, Dad.
Oh, it's all right, Ethan, darling. I'll wait here for Aldrich. We can take a tour of the house and the grounds.
I thought I saw Amanda's car in the driveway.
She's in the study.
I've wanted to see you for a long time.
Our address hasn't changed. We've been here all along. So about the need to see us, I think that you are wrong.
He likes to talk and rhyme until he gets to know you. No horns. How disappointing.
Is that what your father says about me?
Papa hasn't mentioned you. No, not even once. other than to imply you're a simple-minded dunce.
Young man, it's precisely impertinence like that that convinces me I'm doing the right thing suing your father for custody. I know you think I'm the bad guy here, but I simply want what's best for both of you.
Ha! Whenever someone says what's best for others, it's usually what's best for themselves.
Let's talk about school. I've seen your IQ tests. Are you really enjoying going to that small school, studying alongside the children of farmers and small-town merchants? Don't you get bored?
Sometimes. But we have friends there, and we have teachers here.
Who?
Papa and Cletus and Beulah and Molly.
Max and Jean and Opal.
Papa teaches us mathematics, physics, and chemistry. Cletus was an Episcopal minister. He teaches us religion and comparative mythology.
Beulah was a professor of history at Sarah Lawrence. She's teaching us history, geography, and political science. She makes special cupcakes for us, too, and gives us wet kisses like we're babies.
Molly teaches us how to sing. You can be the smartest person in the world, but that doesn't mean you know how to sing.
Captain von Richthofen, Max, is teaching us aeronautical engineering, German, and how to box.
Jean had to leave Princeton, couldn't finish a doctorate in English literature. In the last month, we've reviewed King Lear, Macbeth, and Hamlet, as well as translating Dante's Divine Comedy from the original Italian.
And Opal likes flowers. She's sweet and kind and never used to smile, but smiles all the time now. And she even laughs when she thinks nobody's watching.
She's teaching us how to grow a garden.
That's all well and good, but that hardly compares to going to a really good school, does it? With real teachers?
They are real teachers.
But don't you think they'd be better off with others like them? And you'd be better off in a regular school with regular teachers.
You're just like everyone else. I thought you'd be a little bit like us, but you're not.
You haven't even met them, have you?
Do you think that would make a difference in how I feel?
You could at least try.
Okay. If I agree to go meet them right now, do you two promise to spend the rest of the afternoon with me?
Yes, but remember, you're following our schedule.
Agreed.
They look good together.
Really? Do you remember what Mr. Fitzgerald was like when we were kids?
Not really. I didn't pay attention much to adults in those days.
I did. I visited this house every day for years, and I don't think he could have recognized me on the street. He did the same thing to Patrick.
Well, that was a long time ago. He seems genuinely interested in having a relationship with his grandchildren.
Maybe, but what right does he have disrupting their lives to do so? And his fiancée? Can you imagine Hannah and Sean growing up with that woman?
Well, I wouldn't be worried about that. They probably won't see much of each other except on holidays. My understanding is that Hannah and Sean are going to be sent off to boarding school.
Separate them? Send them away? Why bother suing for custody at all? Where do you think they belong? For 1 minute, just forget that you're Ethan's attorney. What's your real opinion?
Well, I think they belong with their grandfather, away from here.
What would you do if I asked you to resign as Ethan's attorney? Even if you disagree, because it means that much to me. Would you do that?
That's not fair to ask.
All the same, I am asking you. You were wrong about Patrick and the children and the people that live here. I am asking you to trust me.
Well, if I don't do it, he'll just hire another lawyer.
That excuse has rationalized a lot of evil in this world.
So now I'm evil.
You're not evil, Bert. You're thoughtless and selfish and willing to go along with what's wrong because it's convenient for you.
It was always him, wasn't it? Ever since we were kids, it didn't matter how crazy he was or how much I loved you. I was never going to be good enough to replace him, was I?
But you could have been, and I wanted you to be. But you're too concerned with living in a better zip code and having a larger office.
That's easy for someone to say who's been born to money like you and Patrick. Me, I've had to fight for everything I have.
Bert, I admire how hard you've worked, but admiration isn't love.
There's not much left to say then, is there?
I guess there isn't. Go to Boston or Chicago or New York and feel good about your life.
Oh, look at this place. It's a dump. The first thing I'm going to do after I marry Ethan is tear it down. And I'm going to make those little brats watch it turn to rubble. Ugh.
Cuddle Muffin, your wickedness makes me want to do the horizontal hula right here, right now.
Oh, not right now. I'm wearing a girdle. Maybe later after that fat slob Ethan goes to bed.
Your beauty, it's intoxicating, my little lemon drop. Kiss me.
Gonna wash that man right out of my head. Gonna wash that man right out of my head. Gonna wave that man right out of my head. Gonna wave that man right out of my
Welcome, welcome. You must be Patrick's father. We heard you would be visiting.
Yes, my name is Ethan.
Would you care to join us?
What are you doing?
We're having good thoughts.
Excuse me?
Good thoughts. It is a game that Amanda taught us.
I'm thinking about Bobby Harker, a parishioner at my old church, who I've known since he was a boy. He wrote me to tell me that he's graduating from the General Theological Seminary in New York City. He told me it was my example that convinced him to join the priesthood. Now, at my age, it's nice to be reminded that I have touched someone and that I have made an impact. That's my good thought. Molly?
My good thought is about the last show I did. It was opening night. I played the lead's best friend, and I had a solo in the second act. It was in the middle of the song, and I faltered. It was only for a second, but I knew everyone noticed. I had pictured thunderous applause and a standing ovation, and I only got a few scattered claps. But the second night I did it perfectly, and I got the same response, a few scattered claps. It was then that I realized you can't live for other people's approval. Doing what you love is its own reward.
Captain von Richthofen, would you like to go next?
You all know I've been having trouble having good thoughts. But I've been having this dream.
Yes?
In the dream, I am an American, born years before the Great War. In the dream, I make aeroplanes. But not ordinary aeroplanes. In the dream, I build giant metal planes. They weigh thousands of pounds and can hurtle through the air faster than a cannonball. It's an ordinary dream. Nothing exciting happens. Nothing happens at all, really. I wake up, build my magnificent metal planes, and then I hop on the train to the suburbs. My wife is waiting for me. She picks me up, and on our way home, she tells me about her day. And when we get home, she goes inside and she fixes dinner, while I stay outside and play with the kids. A boy and a girl. For a moment after I wake up, I feel content. For the rest of the day, I try to remember that feeling. I don't know. Maybe it's leading me somewhere. Though I don't know where. But to me, that is a good thought.
Thank you for sharing, Captain von Richthofen.
I guess I'll go next. My good thought is, well, it's about a haiku I've been working on. A haiku is only 3 lines long, you know. The first line is 5 syllables long. The second line is 7 syllables. And the third line is 5 again. If you wanted to, you could make 100 a day. But quantity is not what I'm interested in. I want to write a perfect haiku. One that will make men and women 500 years from now stop and think about their lives and make them better as a result. Make them happier. I may not get there, but just trying is making me feel good. And, I think that's what life is really all about. Not having, not doing, just trying. Beulah, do you want to take your turn?
I've been thinking about the question and answer period at the end of every history class I ever taught. At first, it was a sad thought. It reminded me of the things I'll never have again. But then, it was a good thought. I taught for 35 years. Who could say they did anything they loved for 35 years?
Opal says she's already picked out her good thought for the day. When she was in 4th grade, she won first place in a contest run by our local newspaper. She had written an essay on the importance of labor unions. What she didn't know was that she was expected to read it at the town's Labor Day picnic. She was sick that morning. She was sick all the way up till she read it, and she was sick afterwards. But somehow she managed to do it. Now, when talking to people, she draws on that memory to remind herself that if she absolutely has to, she can speak. Oh, that's Patrick's father, Ethan. Opal says it's your turn.
What? No. Thank you, but no.
Come. Share with us. Tell us your good thought.
What? My good thought? I don't know how to start. I mean, I'm a good person, so I must have good thoughts, right? I'm not sad, you know. I have a business and a beautiful fiancée. Men admire me.
Then you must have dozens of good thoughts every day.
You would think so, wouldn't you? Well, I saw my grandchildren today. And when they smiled, and both of them did smile for a second or two, I saw their grandmother's smile. Now, that to me is a good thought. Thank you for letting me play your game. It was very illuminating. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Goodbye.
Well,
They were much nicer than I expected.
still want to spend the afternoon with us?
Of course.
Remember, it's our schedule. Here's a ticket.
You missed the kids' show.
I know. Make it up to them. I just needed some time alone. How much did you hear?
Enough. When I came back in 39 and asked you to marry me, why did you say no?
I was only 18. And I was scared. You know, you could be so happy and so sad. Let me ask you this. When you came back after your mom died, why didn't you ask me to marry you then?
I knew what my illness meant to people who love me, and you had just spent 10 years on your education and building a career.
But not because you didn't love me anymore.
No, not because I didn't love you anymore.
It's over between Bert and me. It has been for a long time. We just needed a push to accept it.
I'm never going to be cured. Someday the lithium might stop working. Can you love that Patrick too? The one that lays in bed for weeks at a time and then goes wing walking or mountain climbing without the proper equipment?
That's the Patrick that I fell in love with. I love him as much as I love the version in front of me.
Disneyland.
Yes.
For our honeymoon. I promised Hannah and Sean we'd go there this year on vacation.
That would be nice.
I couldn't be happier. I'm just amazed it took this long. Oh, you don't believe me? Patrick, let me prove it to you. I've just spoken to Bert.
Ethan, baby, it can't be true. Mr. Walker said you're going to drop your plans for the custody?
It won't be necessary. Patrick and Amanda are already married.
But you can't do that. Not after everything we've seen here.
Please, reconsider, Mr. Fitzgerald. Do you really want to leave your grandchildren here with these people?
I can't think of a better place for them to be. And if it's okay with Patrick, I think I'm going to build a little cottage across the way for me and Poppy so we can visit on a more regular basis.
What are you talking about? Aldi, what is he talking about? He's messing everything up.
Calm down. Let me handle this. Mr. Fitzgerald, I'm sure congratulations are in order for the young Mr. Fitzgerald and Dr. Russell, but has that really changed anything? Wouldn't the little darlings still be better off with you?
No, I don't think they would be. Honey, sweetheart, I know how much you wanted Hannah and Sean to be a part of our family, but I'm still a young man. We can have kids of our own.
But Ethan, I don't want it. Oh, Ethan, darling, that's just wonderful. What's getting fat and having hot flashes and leg cramps and stretch marks and compared to having a baby?
Poppy, calm down.
This is your fault. Listen to this. Oh, look at this place. It's a dump. The first thing I'm going to do after I marry Ethan is tear it down. And I'm going to make those little brats watch it turn to rubble. Ugh.
Cuddle Muffin, your wickedness makes me want to do the horizontal hula right here, right now.
Ethan, darling, this is ludicrous. You know I just love Sean and Hannah like they were our own, and I'm so looking forward to spending the rest of our lives together. Ethan, baby, you don't believe that recording is for real? It doesn't even sound like me.
I think it's time you two leave.
I'll not go until I defend myself against this lie, this deceit, this treachery, this...
Ethan, oh.
Ethan never built a small cottage near the Eternal Sunshine Manor. Instead, he moved back into the room he had shared with Alice. Until his death in 1977, he devoted himself to duplicating the positive environment he'd found there. Each of the original boarders at Eternal Sunshine Manor eventually moved out, facing life in the community girded by the love and understanding they'd received. For the rest of their lives, each would be uncle or aunt to Hannah and Sean. Hannah and Sean fulfilled the promise of their youth. And Patrick and Amanda, well, they lived happily ever after.